Welcome back to the workshop, ladies and gentlemen. It's been some while since I've been out here. Christmas got in the way, and you know how it is this time of year, and it's been a bit on the chilly side, but I've been doing some minor ancillary machining, straightforward turning and milling stuff, so I haven't bothered to put that on video. I'll show you the results of my efforts. And at the end of the last video, I believe I said I'd try and explain my thinking behind the roller bearing Stylus in a little more detail, or perhaps try and put it more clearly. So let's go over to the bench and I'll see what I can do. Right, over here at the bench I've got a taper test bar. This is a Morse taper 2, and if for example we're trying to follow a Morse taper using the ball probe, which has to be on the centre line to follow the taper. Oops, not very steady, and it has to be on the centre line in order to get the correct profile. I'll exaggerate it, but if it's slightly above or slightly below and you traverse along, it's obvious that it won't follow the correct profile. However, if you introduce a roller to the system, ideally it'll be on the centre line. But if it's slightly above or slightly below, the rolling part of the ball bearing will still follow a tangential course, tangential to the centre line. I'm not sure that that's even any clearer than my previous explanation, but hopefully you'll get the gist of it. Just run you through the bits that I have been doing. Well, you've just seen the ball bearing carrier that I've made. I've done some more bits and bobs to the supports. A bearing which the steady bar slides through, and a point to support one end of the pattern or taper or what have you, which goes in there. And if you're using a pattern which is made up from a flat piece with a profile in it, then these secondary points locate in holes at either end of the pattern to hold it steady. And I've also made up the bed clamps for the underside of the supports, and put the bolts in the wrong end. I'll put them back in there so as not to lose them. I've done a few more mods to the base, drilled the holes for the spring bolts supports, which I haven't made yet, and I'm in the process of boring out the recess on the underside of the base to accommodate the spigot on the cross slide, which I'd forgotten about. And when that's finished, I'll gather it all together and we'll come back and see what else we can find fault with. I'm interrupting the video at this point because I've started to do trial assembly on the lathe, and I've come up against one or two problems, none of which I think are probably insurmountable, but unfortunately they highlighted some shortcomings in my design. First off, when you've moved the cross slide across, it comes into contact with the steady bar. I obviously hadn't thought this through very well, and I should have either mounted it much lower, or when you come to think about how the actual cutting motion is going to be applied, the cross slide probably doesn't come into the equation very much, so I'm going to live with that for the moment. Second and more major problem is an illustration of the old adage of measure twice, cut once. I in fact measured 3 times and cut once. Unfortunately the cut was in the wrong bloody place. I cut out the recess for the spigot on the cross slide, and when it's mounted, I'll line it up. Where's the main bolt? There we go. On there. Voila, yep, everything looks fine and dandy until you run it back. I cut the mounting holes 10mm out. I measured from the front mounting hole further down this direction, down here to the slot, and when I came to do the drilling I took the datum from the end, silly Billy. So consequently the mounting holes for the spring support screws are in the wrong place, both sides obviously. 2 ways around it as I see. I either elongate the holes and drill new mounting points for the support screw for the spring mount, or alternatively I suppose I could remake the whole of the bottom, the base. Ideally that's the way I would go, but there's an awful lot of hours involved in cutting this base, not just the setting up but the cutting and the measuring, the dovetails, recesses and what have you, and I don't feel inclined to do that right at the moment. And for the amount of work this is going to be doing, if any, I'm inclined to just extend the holes. Won't look very pretty, but most of the time it won't be seen. There we are. Another problem is when this is up to the centre line, which is roughly there, and I haven't got the tool post off at the moment, but I mount the tool post on the spigot here. There's has to be quite a large amount of tools stick out in order to reach the centre line of the lathe. Again, that can be overcome by elongating this into a slot so that the tool post can be moved backwards and forwards to accommodate different tools and overhangs. So I think I'll probably go that way. It's not going to look very elegant. Not even sure that it's going to blooming work, but there we go. Additionally, the width of the apron restricts the amount of movement that can take place. I've got it set up so that, let me see if I can roughly measure from there to there. I mean, I can move this further up and get a longer pattern in, but usefully I suppose you could probably get 100 to 150 mil pattern in there, which for most model engineering exercises will probably be enough, but not ideal. And this is the furthest I can get the first support away from the apron, and thus I'm going to be approximately 70, maybe 65 or 60 mil from the chuck is where the lathe tool is going to go. So it's going to have to be, if you're turning, example, a tapered or sculptured pillar, it's going to have to be, whoopsie daisy, following a contour on here with a pattern, and then being cut on the lathe centre line with the tool mounted in the post somewhere about there, but held between centres. So it's going to be quite a lot of material in the middle, and you're going to have a hefty chunk on this end and a hefty chunk on that end, or maybe up to about there, I suppose, overhanging into a tailstock supported centre, and you may end up with quite a bit of material, not wasted but unused at the end of the stock. However, nothing is insurmountable, it just takes a bit of time. So I'm going to have to do the elongation of these holes and re-drill the mount holes there. Probably I'll keep that one and just drill another about 5 mil from the end, so that the post mounting is slightly elongated from the original plan, but it will save mucking around too much with it. So there we are, that's an update for the moment. I'll go away, lick my wounds, and do a bit more metal mangling, and when that's done I'll bring you back. But I think for now we'll call it a day on this part, and there's a certain amount of alterations to drawings to be done as well, so I'll get on with that. And if you have been and still are, thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll catch you next time when things should look a little better. Bye for now.